What's up, everybody? So, the Venice and Telluride Film Festivals have come to a close. So, today I wanted to talk to you about some of the films that premiered at these festivals and what their reception means for the Oscars. So, we'll go ahead and start off with the Venice Film Festival. At the time of recording this, it is right after the awards at Venice have been announced. So let's start off with the big one in the room. That would be The Brutalist, directed by Brady Corbet. So when this film debuted in Venice, it blew everyone away. All of the reactions on social media were so hyperbolic, calling it the next Godfather. And for the most part, the reviews for this movie have been pouring in as all 9 out of 10s and 10 out of 10s. So this film seems to be up there as one of the front runners for a lot of awards at this year's Oscars. Everyone has been praising Corbet's direction, the acting, mainly Adrien Brody and Guy Pearce, but Felicity Jones has also gotten a lot of praise. The cinematography and score are apparently just next level and have a very good chance to win. This is a film that I think will appeal to a lot of people in the Academy. It's a throwback to a lot of the older American epics that we tend to not get anymore. It's a 3.5-hour film about a architect played by Adrien Brody who survives the Holocaust and immigrates to America to live out the American dream. There's a lot of themes about immigration and just of the American image in the world in general. So with all of the praise that it's been getting, adding on today with its Silver Lion win for Best Director for Brady Corbet, I think The Brutalist is guaranteed to be one of, if not possibly the front runner for Best Picture. Next up, after The Brutalist, I think we just have to talk about The Room Next Door. This film just won the Golden Lion in Venice, above The Brutalist even. Now, I don't think that makes this a guaranteed contender for a Best Picture win, but it certainly helps its chances at getting that Best Picture nomination. A lot of people were really hesitant about this film and started removing it from a lot of categories after the initial reviews on Metacritic came out. It only has a 69, I believe, at the time of recording this video on Metacritic, which isn't too good for this type of movie. But then I also saw a couple days ago a critics board where this film had the highest average rating among the critics involved. So there's a lot of mixed signals about how well this movie is performing even right now. But I think with this film winning the Golden Lion, the top prize for Best Film at the Venice Film Festival, and this being Pedro Almodovar's first English language film, this one might sneak into the lineup of Best Picture nominees. Another really acclaimed film from Venice was Baby Girl, starring Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson. Kidman plays a wealthy CEO who has an affair with a much younger intern played by Dickinson. This film doesn't seem like it will be a huge hit with the Academy, as erotic thrillers aren't really their thing, but Kidman did just win the Volpe Cup for Best Actress, so I think that if nothing else, she has a chance to get a nomination. Kaylee Spaney won the Volpe Cup for Priscilla last year and didn't get an Oscar nomination, so it's not a golden ticket to that nomination, but it definitely gives Kidman a strong chance at possibly slipping in there. I'm Still Here was the festival's most acclaimed foreign film. Fernanda Torres got a ton of praise for her role in this film. It has around an 80 on Metacritic and just won the award for Best Screenplay at Venice. So I'm thinking this looks like a pretty guaranteed nomination for Best International Film next year. I don't really see this one going any further than that, but I am very much looking forward to this one. Queer, directed by Luca Guadagnino, premiered to mixed reactions at Venice. It only has around a 75 on Metacritic right now, which is much lower than a lot of people were anticipating and hoping for. A lot of people, including myself, had this one in a lot of categories in their predictions prior to its premiere at Venice. And it's sad to say that it's looking like this film might only get a nomination for Daniel Craig, and that is even on the edge. Luca Guadagnino really seemed poised to finally get a Best Director nomination. He should have received one for Call Me By Your Name back in 2018. And with all of the hype around this film being his most personal and such a passion project for him, I really thought that this one would be received much better than it has. So it's kind of disappointing to see that it's looking like this film's chances are really slim. This film apparently takes a lot of swings stylistically that don't pay off, going into a really surrealist tone in the last third, and many who loved a lot of parts of it just cannot connect to these swings that it takes. So it's receiving a lot of polarized reactions, and it seems like with A24's main priority, Sing Sing, shaping up to be one of the bigger contenders this year, this film is ultimately just not going to be able to break through at the Academy Awards. Joker Folie à Deux, the sequel to Joker 2019, which won Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix, premiered to some muted reactions in comparison to the first film. For the most part, this film doesn't seem to be garnering a whole lot of passion, either positive or negative. A lot of people are just kind of in the middle between a 7 and 4 out of 10, which isn't really good for this film. Even though the first one did not have a very high Metacritic score, only had a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, there were still much more passionate reactions from people who love the film and from people who dislike the film. So I think the lack of passion is going to play a very big role in this film's Oscar chances, and ultimately it's going to fall short of a lot of the big categories it was hoping to break into. I still think it's going to get a few tech nominations. Its cinematography, production design, costumes, and makeup have all been praised. And Gaga might have a chance playing Harley Quinn if she goes into supporting actress, but it really feels like if she campaigns in lead, she's not going to be able to break through with how weak this movie is going to be. And so I just don't anticipate this film garnering the same success at the Oscars as the original. Maria is the new biopic by Pablo Larraín about opera singer Maria Callas, starring Angelina Jolie. This film debuted to the weakest Metacritic score of Pablo Larraín's 3 biopic films, the first being Jackie, the second being Spencer. So I think that Angelina Jolie is still very much in the conversation to get nominated for an Oscar, and I do think that nomination is pretty much guaranteed. I don't think she's going to be able to win due to the fact that this movie has been received not as well as Larraín's other 2 films, and those actresses weren't even able to win. So I don't see Jolie's path to a win, but a nomination is very likely. I've also heard a lot of praise for the cinematography and the costume design. The cinematography is done by Edward Lockman, who got nominated for a Pablo Larraín film El Conde last year. And the costume design, I have heard, is very intricate and detailed and elegant. So I think those categories, the nominations are also possible, but I can't see it getting past actress, costumes, and cinematography at the Oscars next year. Other films that won awards at Venice, but I don't think are going to break through into the Oscars in any sort of way, are Vermilio, which won the Grand Jury Prize, April, which won the Special Jury Prize, and The Quiet Son, which won the Volpe Cup for Best Actor for Vincent Lindon. Now moving on to the Telluride Festival, which at the time of recording this ended about 5 days ago, I believe. So starting off with the Telluride films is Conclave. This is the new thriller from Edward Berger, the director of All Quiet on the Western Front. The film stars Ralph Fiennes as he's tasked with finding a new pope after the previous one died mysteriously, and he gets caught in the middle of a conspiracy. This is supposed to be, as I said, more of a political thriller. So I don't think this will be something that wins Best Picture, but I do anticipate this one getting quite a few nominations. I have heard from some critics that it's a little bit silly and some of the supporting performances are more theatrical, but I've heard nothing but glowing praise for Ralph Fiennes. I think he's definitely going to be a contender to win Best Actor. I'm not sure if he will end up winning, but he feels very safe to be a top 2 or 3 contender at least for the award. And I also think screenplay and a few tech awards feel very likely. I don't think Berger will get a director nomination, though some have singled out his direction as a standout of the film. So if this ends up being a really big film at the Academy Awards next year, maybe Berger can sneak in there. But otherwise, this film just doesn't feel like it's going to win an award, but will get nominated for many. And so for that reason, I think it's a pretty safe bet to at least get that Best Picture nomination. One of the bigger contenders to emerge from this festival is Nickel Boys. This is an adaptation of Colson Whitehead's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel from a few years back. It's about a school in Florida that was open for over 100 years and had a history of physical, sexual abuse and killing the boys in the school. So this is going to be something that has a very heavy subject matter that I think the Academy is going to respond to. I have heard it is very experimental with how it's crafted. Just watch the trailer, it looks gorgeous. But this film is shot almost entirely from the point of view of the two main boys of the story. This really excites me about the film. Ramel Ross's documentary that he got nominated for back in 2018, I believe, was really acclaimed and had a lot of experimental tendencies. So I'm glad that he stuck with those for his debut narrative feature. I think this is one of the more promising contenders out of Telluride. I have heard from some that it is a little polarizing among the audience who watched it. Some people say the first person POV shots take them out of the film after a little bit. So I think it's good to be a little bit hesitant on if this is going to get Best Picture because it could divide people a little bit too much. But it seems like it's garnering a lot of passion, and I think that's going to be a really good thing for this movie. I have heard it's very well written, and the direction and cinematography being praised so much makes me feel good about it despite the polarizing tendency of it. Saturday Night is the new film about the writers, actors, and producers who have to scramble together the very first episode of Saturday Night Live back in 1975. This apparently just blew the roof off of the place in Telluride at its premiere. The audience was eating it up. You saw multiple pundits like Clayton Davis come out afterwards and say it's a surefire Best Picture nomination contender because of how much the audience just loved the film. The film only has a 66 on Metacritic right now, I believe, which is a little bit concerning. But if this audience passion keeps up and it wins or gets runner-up at the Toronto Film Festival, then I think that audience passion will be all this film needs to break into Best Picture. I don't think this is going to be a film that needs a lot of critics backing it. The Piano Lesson is the new August Wilson play adaptation starring John David Washington, Daniel Deadwyler, and Samuel L. Jackson. And the big thing to talk about here is that Samuel L. Jackson not only is not winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, but probably won't even be nominated. People have been predicting him for well over a year at this point, and it seems like he is just in the background for the entire film. He does apparently have one monologue, so if the Academy just decides, welcome back Samuel L. Jackson, he could get a nomination. It's looking unlikely, and he's certainly not winning. The big standout of the film, however, is Danielle Deadwyler. She is the emotional anchor of the film, and for that reason, I think because of her buzz, she is going to be getting a nomination and may even win. I'm thinking it's probably going to be Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez right now in supporting actress because she's in a Best Picture nominee, and I don't think The Piano Lesson is going to be that type of a success at the Oscars. I think it's ultimately only going to be Danielle Deadwyler that gets a nomination and nothing else for the film. It is very much more of a supernatural horror thriller film, and not everyone has been responding to those elements as well as some would have hoped. A lot think that the family drama side of the film is much better than the supernatural, and thus it's a little uneven. So I think it's Danielle Deadwyler or bust for this film. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. I hope some of you were able to get something out of some of these films that debuted at Venice or Telluride. Over to your left will be a playlist with my 2024 movie reviews, and if you enjoyed what you saw here, you would like to see more like this, more Oscar predictions or film reviews, subscribe.